Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the South Derbyshire series, a district of Derbyshire which stretches from Leicestershire to Staffordshire, containing 50 civil parishes. Here's one of them for you. Welcome back to South Derbyshire for the first time in a while, and you join me on a cool, crisp, clearish morning, even though there are a few clouds in the sky. There's even a spot of rain that I keep feeling on my head too, so I might get wet by the end of this one, who knows, but it looks like it is going to clear up and it is going to be a nice day. Today we're going to explore the parish of Netherseal. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome back to South Derbyshire everyone, and to the parish of Netherseal, which is the southernmost of all in Derbyshire, sitting as it does on the border with both Leicestershire and Staffordshire. It lies on the River Mease and within the Derbyshire portion of the Mease Valley, shared with Staffordshire. It's also part of an ancient area of the Midlands which was known as the district of Seal, and no, that's nothing to do with any kind of sea creature. The district included several settlements, many of which form the current areas known as Netherseal and Overseal. The word seal refers to a wood, whilst nether means lower, making this literally lower wood. Overseal, by contrast, means upper wood. The seals, as they're known collectively, are located on the edge of the Ashby Woulds mineral field, and Netherseal had a large colliery where 2 shafts were sunk in 1867. This mine produced 500 tonnes of coal a day, employed 500 men, and used an underground haulage system which worked on compressed air, the first one in South Derbyshire to do so. That fact alone gives Netherseal a bit of fame, but much more notable would be its famous grave. In Netherseal Cemetery there lies one of the most important people to have ever lent his hand to the railways, Sir Nigel Gresley, famed for designing the Mallard. There's lots more here too, so let's go for a walk. We begin our trip around Netherseal right on the Derbyshire-Leicestershire border in a small settlement called Akersford. Akersford is a Leicestershire village, but thanks to the boundary, a small part of it falls within Derbyshire. This is that part, and it includes this pub, the Cricket's Inn, which since February of this year has been under new management. It's a family-run pub dedicated to serving fantastic food and delivering a welcoming and friendly atmosphere. Next to the pub is Akersford Road, which twists and turns its way into Netherseal, bringing us into the village at its oldest part. This area isn't the only part of Netherseal's boundaries that's a little weird. Stick with me folks, you'll see what I mean later. Let's go and park up and get walking around. Our main walk begins at Netherseal St Peter's Sports Club, which began life as a sports club, but now it's much more. The club has always had a social element and features a bar open to the public. Here's the village playground next door. Off we go down Main Street. The northern end of the village is the more modern part of Netherseal. It gets older the further south we go. Here's a bus stop. Your main bus service here is the 19, which connects Burton-on-Trent to Ashby via Swadlincote. There used to be two pubs in Netherseal. They were called the Hollybush and the Seal, but both are now closed. This was the Seal. It was built in 1772 as 3 cottages and converted into a pub in the early 1800s. Slowly, the appearance of the village starts to change. The new builds are soon replaced by much older cottages. Rather unsurprisingly then, the centre of Netherseal village is a conservation area, and it has many listed buildings. This doesn't feel like Derbyshire, to be honest with you. It's not like what I'm used to so far in this county. I tell you what though, it's blooming peaceful this morning. There's been nobody around. I've just done that first section of the walk and I've only seen one person and he didn't even speak to me, so unusual for someone in Derbyshire, to be fair. But yeah, it's nice and quiet and it's relaxing at the moment. It's just nice. It's just nice. So let's see if this will carry on as we carry on around the village. This part I'm about to do now is the only bit you're going to see twice because there's no way to form an actual complete loop. I've got to go down this part of the road twice. Over there you can see a phone box. Let's go and explore what's in that. There's no phone in the phone box these days. However, it's still important because it houses the defibrillator. The houses continue. Here's number 52 Main Street. I captured this simply because I like the greeny colour that it's painted. Next up is the Netherseal store. Not open of course, as it was still early. This has its own Facebook page, linked below. After the shop we pass a parish notice board and Netherseal is in the books. 4 down and 46 to go in South Derbyshire. On the opposite side of the road is the other former pub, the Hollybush. This was a pleasant Victorian inn, but like the Seal, it's now closed. Next is Newlands House, a care home that stands on the site of a now demolished hall, which was the seat of the Gresley family. Speaking of halls, it's the village hall next. This attractive little building is used by the community for a variety of events. St Peter's School, which is literally just over the way, used the village hall for PE and music lessons throughout term time. On a small green next door is the War Memorial, a granite cross which displays 18 names, 15 for World War I and 3 for World War II. And a few more steps brings us to the entrance to Netherseal Cemetery, an extension to the churchyard of St Peter's Church. Okay, so in Netherseal there's a famous grave and it's that of Sir Nigel Gresley, and this board, which I've just shown you a moment ago, tells you all about him. Sir Nigel Gresley, one of the foremost railway mechanical engineers to have lived and practiced in Britain, resided his early years at the old rectory in Netherseal. So let's see if we can find his grave. It's apparently in here, because here it tells you it's in this small cemetery. I've just got to find it. He's apparently buried under the Boscobel Oak. I have no idea what a Boscobel Oak is, but I would have thought it would be a big tree, a massive tree. Well, the only massive tree I can see is this one right here. So we'll go and have a look under that tree and we'll see if we can find his grave. It didn't take long to find his grave. Here lies Sir Nigel Gresley, one of Britain's most famous steam locomotive engineers. He was the designer of some of the most famous steam locomotives in Britain, including the Flying Scotsman and the Mallard. At a speed of 126 miles an hour, the Mallard still to this day holds the record for being the fastest steam locomotive in the world. Gresley died in 1941 after a short illness while serving as a lieutenant colonel in the Royal Engineers Railway Staff Corps. Oh, and for those wondering, the word Boscobel apparently means beautiful wood. Well, every day is a school day. Now let's turn our attention to the church to which the cemetery belongs, which stands at the village's southern end. Originally 13th century, St Peter's Church was rebuilt in 1874 under the direction of the architect Arthur Blomfield. It was reopened by the Bishop of Peterborough later that year. Some features of the earlier church remain today, including the tower. The old pews were removed and replaced with open seating. Part of the nave walls and pillars were retained, but the rest was renewed. The church is in a joint parish with those at Cotton in the Elms, Croxall, Lullington, Rossliston, Walton-on-Trent and Overseal. Now this is definitely Netherseal's oldest part. Of course the church is a very old building, but you also have some very old actual houses and grand like mansion type houses down here as well. One of them is right next door to the church, which is here. Now I don't know how much of this building I'm going to be able to capture because as you can see there's trees and there's walls in the way. I'll have a quick look, but if not we'll just carry on back towards our next area. This building is Netherseal Old Hall, probably the grandest of the residences in the village. It dates back to 1642. It may be the last building of real note as you leave the village to the south, but there are plenty of others along Church Street. Perhaps the one people flock to the most is this one. This is Netherseal's old rectory, which has a blue plaque on its wall. That's because when Sir Nigel Gresley lived in Netherseal, this was where he resided. The plaque immortalises that fact. Then we have a terraced row of cottages. Grade 2 listed, there are 6 of them, each with an attached garden to the rear. These are almshouses founded by Richard Johnson. They were built in 1699 but altered slightly in the 20th century. Next we pass the old schoolhouse. That's the building you can see in your shot now. The current school is dead opposite. St Peter's C of E School was originally a public elementary school for 116 students. It was built in 1870 and enlarged in 1890. Okay, I've come down here primarily for the river, which is here, as you can see. Looking quite nice, quite still, quite peaceful, don't you think? This lovely willow tree hanging over it. That's quite good. I like that. Now, the big question I've got to ask myself here is, there's meant to be a footpath which takes me around the back of a tennis court. You can see the lights for the tennis court just there, and it's meant to be somewhere here. I can't see it. This could be a problem because I'm meant to follow it around the tennis court and it'll take me back towards our next area, but I don't think this path exists, or if it did exist it doesn't exist anymore because it's meant to be just here. So I may have to turn around and head back because I'm not trying to trample through that lot even if it does exist. So we'll go back this way, back towards the school. This will be an enforced change of route, but I can think on the fly. I'll see where it leads me. The tennis court we could see there belongs to the Netherseal Lawn Tennis Club, one of 4 floodlit courts within its complex. Next, after passing between the school and the War Memorial Cross at the village hall, we're now on a path that actually exists. We're now back on the planned route because it's this area I was aiming for. It leads to Dog Lane, which is off Main Street. Dog Lane is a residential area and it's a dead end too, with only Manor Drive and Blacksmith's Close for company. We're back to Main Street at Hollybush Close, named after the former pub, which is just a few paces away to the south. Now we've turned into Clifton Road and we're met with the former Wesleyan Chapel next, with its associated schoolhouse. The congregation at Netherseal was established in 1887 and the building opened in 1899. It wouldn't close until 1983. And as if those 2 buildings weren't enough, literally just a couple of paces further along the road and you come to Netherseal Baptist Church. right here. That's got a date stone of 1840. A couple of graves on this left hand side as well. Okay, our last section of the walk around this rather large village in South Derbyshire will take us up Hunts Lane, and at the top of Hunts Lane there's a path that I can use to come back to the sports club where we began. So we're almost all the way around. Hunts Lane is wholly residential, but it's our ticket back to the start. It's a shallow hill that runs northwest towards Lullington Road. There's not much to say about this area really, although there was a cute little property on the end of Croft Close. I couldn't help but think that these houses on the far side of the road had a certain Canadian look to them. I don't know why. Anyway, North American or not, we've now reached what looks like a field, but it is in fact part of the play area that we saw earlier. The path across it leads back to the sports club, which incidentally is where Netherseal St Peter's Football Club play. And here we are back at the sports club where I began this video about an hour ago. I only saw 2 people walking around on my entire route. Can you believe that? Mind you, when you think about it, it is early in the morning and most people are still in bed, and I'm crazy enough to be out here with the camera while everybody is still asleep. Now, if you were expecting to see Netherseal Colliery in this episode, I'm going to have to disappoint you, because even though Netherseal is a big parish in terms of area, it's not big enough to include its own colliery. It's actually in a different parish to the north. I'll cover that when we eventually get to that one. Also, within the boundaries, there's Grangewood Hall. Now, that's private and I can't access it, but I can give you a special section all about it. Quite a lot of land to the north of the village is given over to the Grangewood estate. Sitting within that estate is the magnificent Grangewood Hall, once known as Grangewood House. Its associated parkland is shown on late 19th century OS maps as Parkland Stipple, with scattered parkland trees containing a fish pond and an ice house. Close to the house is a rectangular walled garden with a fountain at its centre. The history of the hall is not really recorded in any heavy detail, but it's a Grade 2 listed building and was altered considerably in the 1960s. To the north and west of the hall there's a vast expanse of woodland which forms part of the National Forest. Within the woodland, but just over the parish boundary, is the Mease and Scents column. More on that to come in a future episode. The Grangewood area can also boast a tennis club, a livery, and Grangewood Lodge on your screens now, a private residential daycare facility for the elderly and those with dementia. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.